This is Jim Wright with Birthmothers, and this is our 15th annual Birthmothers Day Brunch. Thank you for listening to me. I want to be a part of your home today, as I'm here at my home taping this. I want to speak to you about some great things that have happened to me, some struggles. But what I've seen here lately is a lot of people have struggles. In fact, everybody in this room has a struggle, and people that are not in the room here have struggles. Physical struggles, emotional struggles, interpersonal struggles. We all have struggles. Wherever you are in your life, I know you have struggles too. And I recently was challenged with knee surgery, complete knee replacement surgery. And how God has touched me in that and met my prayers is beyond belief, my belief, beyond my prayers. And I want to tell you that on the 17th of March is when I left my house. I wrote down on a pad, and I have the post-it note today, because I was a little scared about going to have the surgery because, see, you'll learn later in this conversation, I have HIV. And I had surgery 10 years ago. 10 years ago I had the same surgery. And it was very difficult, very painful, lots of morphine, and a long recovery. So to be honest with you, I didn't want to do it. And probably in your life, you have many things you don't want to do. You're faced with surgery, you're faced with this or that, and you don't want to do it. And so maybe this talk will help you to step out in faith. So I wrote on my pad, go in faith. Go in faith. Because you have to understand it snowed 10 inches here. 10 inches in Northern Virginia. And then I'm up on a hill and I called a cab. And what was to happen after that was amazing. It's something out of the movies. My son was here. He got me out to his car, which is up on the hill here. We backed down the hill. This is with 10 inches of snow on the pavement, and we backed down because we didn't want to risk turning around. The cab's at the bottom of the hill. The cab takes off. We're chasing the cab. Now, you had to think this is out of the movies, so we're now chasing our cab. And I'm thinking in my mind, Lord Jesus, I guess you don't want me at the hospital. So I called my friends who were going with me, and I was supposed to take the cab to their house and take the cab into D.C., to Georgetown Hospital. Well, I called them on the phone. I said, I don't know what's going on here, but the cab is running from us. So we're running through the neighborhood here. We went about 3 to 4 miles. Now you have to believe this. I'm sitting here with a bad knee. I'm in the passenger seat. My son is driving. We're honking the horn at the cab. And we're going, why are you running from us? We finally cornered him. Terry, have you heard this before? No. This is amazing. So we finally cornered the guy, and we rolled on the window, and he said, what are you doing? He said, you waited too long to come out of your house. He wouldn't take us. So we then went back to, went over to my friend's house. Hopefully they called a cab. When I got there, there's a cab there. But it wasn't the cab that I was expecting. A cab happened to be in the neighborhood. And so this cab just happened to be in this neighborhood. Now, this is bizarre. So I climbed into this cab, Terry. And I'm in the cab. My friends come out. They get in the cab. And so then the other cab shows up that they had called. So suddenly, we've got 2 cabs, and they decided I'll stay in this cab and I'll shoot on down to Georgetown. Now, listen to what's happening here. With the streets covered with snow, I make it down to D.C. with 5 minutes to spare. That's how it starts on March the 17th. Now, I tell you that because I just written on the notepad, remember, go in faith. And I'm thinking in my mind, this is not working out the way I planned it. 10 inches of snow, and now going to the hospital. Well, I go into surgery that afternoon. Now the complication. Now what's going to happen in this story I'm going to tell you is God is walking with me. And I'm in faith and I'm praying the whole way through this. And maybe in your life, you've got another challenge, whether it's in pregnancy or any other area of your life. We're sitting there, they're giving me factor 8 because I have hemophilia in order to do the surgery, to literally cut off my leg. And the person that does the block, and I don't know what doctor does it, he said, we don't have the block here. We only have a 12-hour block. Well, my doctor wanted a 3-day block. That's where they block your leg so it's numb, and then they can work your leg and straighten it out. So I'm thinking, oh shucks. Well, we couldn't move me to another hospital because the factor 8, the clotting factor I take to stop my bleeding was there. So I go to surgery. I'm lying on the operating table. They're preparing me for surgery. They're putting in the block. I'm telling the lady with anesthesia about my story of being chasing the cab. She's laughing. And suddenly she says, I'm going to make you a little bit sleepy. Next thing, I'm out. And then I wake 2 hours later with a new knee. I go to my room. My brother's there now. My friends are there. I'm talking to them. I don't remember a lot about that, but later that evening, I'll tell you, the lady walked in. Her name was Mary. She was coming at 11 o'clock. The next day, on Tuesday, she walked in and said, do you remember me? I said, yeah, I remember you. She said, well, people don't often remember a lot from anesthesia. I said, well, I remember you. She said, well, you kept telling me to go away because you were with the friends, not to close things down. So I was trying to close everything down. I said, fine. But that night, I'll tell you, folks, I was with my cell phone the night of surgery. That was late Monday night. Listen to scripture, listen to preachers. So the next day when Mary came, she said, I've never seen anybody like you. You're listening to preachers at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, I was happy. I was happy because I had made it through surgery. I was there. I had finally done it. Because I didn't want to do it. And maybe in your life there's things you don't want to do. I'm sure there is. The next morning I will tell you that at 10 o'clock the pain came in. Suddenly the block was gone. And it was suddenly pain. I asked for my first pain pill, and that's the only pain pill I took. After that, I took one pain pill on Tuesday morning, and after that, it was Tylenol. Now, moving forward, I'm surprised by this, and so is everybody else, that I'm not in pain. My doctor said the surgery went well. This is complete knee surgery, knee replacement surgery. And to tell you one more thing, that's kind of amazing. On Wednesday, they wanted me to go into therapy, physical therapy, to raise my leg. I couldn't raise my leg. It's called a leg raise. Couldn't raise my leg. So the lady says to me, well, listen, Mr. Wright, tighten your muscles in your leg. So I did a little bit, and they were doing something, not much. I said, well, ma'am, would you raise my leg the way you want it to be raised? And I said, yes. So she's raising my leg. I'm thinking in my brain that I'm helping. So I said, would you put it down? I think I'm helping. And sure enough, I did 10 leg raises. And she was surprised. I went from 0 to 10. Well, the next thing that happened shocked me. So we do a few more different exercises. This is like a cripple, I've got, I look like a guy that's been in surgery. I said, ma'am, let me do another leg raise. And this is where it gets shocking. I did 50 leg raises. Everybody in PT is watching this. I go from 0 to 50. And I'm in shock too. And that begins the story of this rapid recovery that I can't even explain. God was with me. And today it's been 6 weeks plus, and I'm walking around with a limp, but I'm walking around. Now, that comes about, the title is Go in Faith, and I went in faith. in whatever you're doing at home and whatever you're thinking about in your life, you're thinking, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm going to urge you to walk out in faith, to seek God for this. Now, how does it relate to pro-life? Well, there are lots of people out there that we've dealt with in our ministry that are pregnant, that are struggling with whether to choose life or abortion or adoption. In fact, they struggle because there's so many pressures on them to choose abortion by boyfriends, sometimes even husbands. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to ask you to choose life and to go in faith. And maybe adoption would be appropriate. For adoption is a wonderful solution in the right situation. One of the things I want to tell you about today is I want to thank Kathy Widenhouse, who's urged me to do this talk, because this is our 15th annual brunch. And she said, why don't you think about it? Why don't you pray about it? And I said, I'll pray about it. So a week ago, Thursday morning, the Lord said again to me, go in faith. Go in faith, Jim. Do it. So I'm here today after being nudged to do it. So I thank you for joining me by video. I want to tell you about a story that comes back to what happened when I got home here. I'm not going to use the lady's name, but I'm lying on this couch here at my home. It's being filmed in my home. I feel a little bit useless. Maybe you do too sometimes when you're not able to be productive. I get a phone call. Phone rings. Lady says, I was on the internet and I saw your website and I see that you're loving and compassionate. And I've looked around the websites and you seem to be the most compassionate. And I said, well, we are. And she says, well, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant by rape. I'm pregnant with twins by rape. She says, I'm looking for nothing more than moral and spiritual and prayer help, because it'll be very difficult for me to place. I've already identified an adoptive couple. I have 2 children now from a failed marriage. I just need prayer support. She's in another state. So I told her in this conversation, I said, yes, I'll call her Susie. Susie, we are compassionate, and I'll tell you where this ministry comes from. This is where it gets really interesting. I said, ma'am, I have HIV that comes from taking contaminated blood products 30 years ago or more. And Birthmothers is an outgrowth of my HIV, hemophilia leading to HIV. And so I'm reaching out to women, and now I've adopted my son. He's 22 years old now. My first wife, who died of AIDS, a lovely wife, died of AIDS 10 years ago. But this ministry comes out of grief. It comes out of loss. And this is what she said to me. She said, well, Jim, 20-some years ago, I joined a group in college that wanted to serve HIV and AIDS people. I was criticized by some of my Christian friends. Why would you spend time with this group? Then she started to cry. And she said, you know, now 20-some years later, I'd have a man with HIV willing to walk with me. And I said, yes. I said to her, I'll call her Susie. Susie, I'm not going to refer you off. I'm going to walk with you. She said, will you talk to my boyfriend? So I'm talking to her boyfriend too. I've been on 2 conversations. Another one's coming up. with her boyfriend as well. Now the thing about this was, after talking to Susie, a friend of mine called me. The call had just happened. I'm lying on my couch. One thing I will tell you, this woman's lying her couch too. She's actually taking anticoagulants. I'm taking coagulants. It's a weird story here. She's hundreds of miles away, and I'm on my couch. She's on her couch. She's looking for help. A friend of mine called me. I said to Mike, Mike, I just got the incredible call. And as I began to tell the story to my friend Mike, who's lost a lot, he's lost everything financially, tears started to well up in my eyes and then rolled down my cheeks. And Mike was touched too. And Mike says to me, Jim, you're right where you need to be. You're right where you need to be. Lying flat on my back, that God would send this woman to us, that I would be able to, especially able to minister to. So I was blessed, knowing I was right where I wanted to be, trying to serve God, serve women, help these babies come to life, be placed for adoption. Well, I'm going to give you an update. I just got a long email yesterday, last night, this morning, early this morning, from this woman, Susie. She's struggling. And when I called her last night, I emailed her last night. She said this morning, it was late at night, she wrote me, she said, God placed in your heart to call me because I was struggling. I have two beautiful boys. And they're placed with a great couple. I know that's where they need to be, but you called me, you prayed for me by email. He says, I just want to know that I'll be coming back to you and telling you more, and please talk to my friend. So basically, I want to tell you that through this whole thing with the knee surgery, God would be at work. This is just one story I have. I've got a couple others like this, but this is most dramatic. Where this woman has been raped by a friend and is placed for adoption. And she is struggling. And Lord, you know who this woman is, and you are watching at home. When you see this video, you can pray for her because her heart aches for her boys. They're beautiful boys. So, we all have struggles. And I'm telling you that many, many women are struggling now. Today is a very sad day, tomorrow on Mother's Day. I've been talking about this for a long time. That many women at Mother's Day are very, very impacted by Mother's Day. Why? Because they've had an abortion. Well, I just saw something yesterday for the first time on the web. A guy was saying the same thing. He said with 40% of all women of childbearing age having an abortion in America, 14%. Your churches are filled up. I don't care if you go to the Catholic Church, Protestant Church, it doesn't matter. That they're aching. And so if you're there watching me, I pray that you would take your life dedicated to Jesus Christ, where He can forgive you. He can fill that void. And ask Him into your heart. Ask Him to touch your life. Touch the abortion you've had. Heal your heart. He maybe worked up somebody else who's also made that choice and grieves the choice. And I've seen many women over the years I've been doing this grieve the choice they've made. But today might be the day that God uses you, that you decide to give it to Christ, give it to God, seek forgiveness, help somebody else that needs. Thanks for listening to me. And we can be reached at birthmothers.org. And the women that are pregnant, go to birthmotherministries.org. So my phone number is there. Please call me. May God bless you. Thanks for listening to me. Have a great Mother's Day. Bye now.